Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Wednesday, October 30th. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I joined a group, and it's kind of like this one here where everybody's helpful and stuff like that. But there were a few things that got me thinking when people were posting stuff. But hang tight. I'm going to run it by you guys. Alrighty, welcome back. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it, and this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Wednesday, October 30th. So, being laid up, per se, I've had chances to go around and search and look at new things. And one thing I found was a group on Facebook, and the group is phenomenal. Most of your people in there are just everyday folks asking questions. And you got some mechanics in there, you got some, you know, do it yourselfers, a little bit of everything. But everybody is, if somebody poses a question, most of the time they're helpful, okay? They may not be right, but they're trying to be helpful. And that's a big thing. And one of the questions I posed to the group was, how many young bucks or gals and retirees do we have here that are looking to get in or are in? And that surprised me. It was pretty good share of young guys that are getting into the industry, which is great. And they're doing great. They said the business is great, swift. And then there were retirees that were commenting that they didn't know a whole lot about it. They were trying to learn it. Some were going to school, online schools for it. A lot of times, folks, the best way to learn, you got to do the book stuff too, as part of knowing what the specs are and stuff like that. But I'm sorry, the way you're going to learn is get your hands dirty. Dive in. There's enough YouTube videos out there on every subject known to man that will keep you on the straight and narrow, right? And I don't post a lot of repair videos, and the reason I don't is because so many people are already doing it, if I look at something and say, can I do it better? Or a better example, or something I can add to it, then yeah, I'll take it on, or something you guys want. But I tend to stay on the business side. And the nice thing about the business side, doesn't matter whether you have a small engine repair business, auto mechanic business, whatever business you have, the advice that I try to give goes across the board. And the one thing that kind of got me was a fella asked me, he said, how long does it take? How many years until you are doing $1 million in business without any sales, all repairs? And that kind of stumped me, because it's all about location, right? If you're in the right location, you can do very well. But if you're in the right location and you're doing very well, that means you're paying out bigger money for lease, rent, mortgage, higher taxes, all that good stuff, right? But my comment back was, I don't know of too many people that are doing $1 million in just repairs. I can tell you about more people that are over $1 million in debt with floor planning. But I asked him, I said, are you a one-man band, or how many mechanics you got? And he told me that they had 5 mechanics and 1 employee. Well, that's 6, right? Now, he's telling me that he charges right around $800 per repair. And that's kind of got me. See, I know of a friend of mine. His mom had a John Deere, and all it needed was just a simple service, okay? And she sent it to him, and they did a service, And by the time they added in trucking, everything else, the bill was $840. $840. She didn't even get the first time around the yard with it, and it blew a deck belt. Now, she had to call them again. They come got it, replaced the deck belt on it, brought it back, and charged her almost $500 for that, for just simply putting a belt on. So I know that there's some businesses that are asking that kind of money, but I think it depends upon the location you're dealing with, people's disposable income, people's gross income, net income, has got to be a lot higher. But what I can tell you right now is we're slammed, which is usually unheard of. But people are fixing their stuff again. They're full tilt. We went yesterday just to pick up supposed to be just a zero turn, needed some deck work. We've dealt with this customer for years, great customer. And we've kept his Husqvarna zero turn going year after year after year when it should have been trashed, So he sent me a message through Facebook. That's how he and I talk. He's on my friends list. And he said, "Can you pick up my mower?" So I said, "Yeah, we'll pick it up tomorrow." So we headed out there yesterday, and we had to pick up a Gator and a John Deere zero turn 60-inch at one customer's. They want the fall service that, I talk about getting your customers trained. He's one of them. And it works great because we winterize it at no extra cost, and it goes into his building. But the one that had the Husqvarna zero turn, by the time we got there, he had added a generator, a rototiller, and then today I have to pick up another tractor. So the yard is getting backed up. Of course, it doesn't help that I can't do a whole lot. But it's good to see the work is there. And everybody's been really good about it, of not getting too pushy, because they realize that Claude is pretty much doing all the bulk of it. And he's 73. But that brought me back to, he said he's on track to hit $1 million next year, and he's doing $800,000 now at $800 per service. See, now in our shop we charge on average, just average, all right, it's around 200 and something, and usually 210 to 240, depending upon the machine, all right. And our labor on that is usually right around 85-90, a little over an hour doing a complete service on it. And then you have your parts, and we mark the parts up. I do 20%. That's the way I've done it, and it works. So if you mark the parts up 20%, on the other 100, there's $20. Now you're making around $110, $120 in labor and parts. All right. That's not saying how much I pay Claude. I'm just saying this is what's coming into the shop for, costs. But that still leaves me with almost half of the bill is parts. Your air filter, fuel filter, spark plugs, oil filter, oil, checking transmission fluids, grease. You have all these expenses going out. But I sat there and I tried to figure out how in the world can, even it, maybe you guys can explain it to me. He lives just outside of Detroit in the suburbs, so he's got a good location, must be. But he's promising a lot of stuff like same day service, same day repairs, in and out, and 5 mechanics. If you're doing a wham job all summer long, those mechanics are making the shop money, right? But then when it comes into fall, things slow down for the winter. Unless you're in a highly populated area that has, you're willing to carve out a niche somewhere, you still got to feed those folks through the winter, and not a lot coming in, right? But what do you guys think? I mean, is it possible to do $1 million a year in just repairs? I guess, I understand if you got the right location. And I understand that there are some businesses that are charging 150, 160 an hour, which is crazy to me, but, location, location, location. My customers in my area cannot afford that. And by the way, my friend's mother that with John Deere, guess who's got the service plan now on that? Us. He didn't think we went that far to pick up machines. And I told him, I said, we've gone 2 hours to pick up machines. What are you talking about? I said, your mom's only half an hour, 40 minutes away. I said, the average I'm going to charge you per rate around $100 to pick up and drop off, plus the service and that. So you're talking right around $350. And I will check your belts before they leave. That's the other thing is when somebody tells me they're doing a service on lawnmower, there seems to be a lot of variance on what level of service you're getting. And we have the two services, all right? We have the advanced for machines that we've never seen. And I'm talking about that guy that brings you that Husqvarna lawnmower that he bought brand new 5 years ago and he hasn't serviced it yet. That's going to get the advanced. That means we're going to go head to toe and we're going to adjust the valves. We're going to do all that stuff. On a normal service, if we're seeing it every year, usually every other year, unless it's showing signs on compression that there's a little bit off, we don't touch the valves. We do every other year, we'll go ahead and do that, but not every year on regular customers. And we already know that we went front to back on that last year, so we just do a front to back on it this year. And we listen to the customers to see if there's any issues that they had, over last summer that would prompt them to think that there was something else going on with the unit, whether it seems like it's slow and my zero turn, the one wheel doesn't turn as much as the other. A lot of times that's linkages. We had one of those this fall that a guy called me, wanted to know. He had it to a couple other places. And he drove almost 80 miles to bring that machine to us to just adjust the linkages on the zero turn. Are people just not checking that? But it seems like the way he was talking, not many shops know how to do the linkages on the zero turns. If you're a mechanic, you better know how to do linkage and adjustment on those pumps and on those drive motors. And they do require adjustments and maintenance every year. We do that every year. On every zero turn comes in, we adjust and we make sure everything is moving at the same speed, same turning, what have you. The other thing I noticed with the group, which is not a downfall, it's just being taught the right way, is how to diagnose stuff. I know a lot of times we as mechanics, and I'm not top level mechanic, but I do turn wrenches now, is we have a certain, and I try to push that through our videos, through these videos to you, and Jason's helped me out a lot, Travis has helped me. You guys have helped me out immensely on even my diagnostic of how I go about stuff. And I'm forever grateful that you've kind of got me honed into with steps. But the first step we do now is compression. Thanks, Jason. And that's going to say yay or nay on that unit. And then we get fire, fuel, air. We go right down the steps. And we stop when we don't have certain things and try to figure out what's going on. Why aren't we getting that? And it's common, especially with a lot of your older mechanics that have seen quite a bit, and I'm guilty of it as well, is if I see something that's not just right, is not doing something, and I've seen it before, it's like that, aha, it's got to be that. And then you jump from the doing an actual diagnostic on that machine way over to where you've seen it had an issue before. You start working there. And what you fail to do is maybe there's no compression on the engine either, but you've jumped and you fix that. So you've spent an hour fixing what you thought the issue was, and it could have been. And then you come back, and then you decide you're going to do the diagnostic on it, and you do a compression, and there's no compression. You've wasted that time doing the other thing, right? So one of the things that I stress, when it comes to when you look at any machine that comes in, you need to have a set of rules of how you're going to diagnose it. And when I say diagnostic, you got to have compression. Make sure that your valves are good if you haven't got compression. If you still haven't got compression, call the customer because it's not looking good. If you get the compression up, then you go on to fire. If you're not getting fire, start with the fuse, the main fuse, and work your way back, head pecking, trying to figure out what's going on. You can unplug the coil wires, the grounding wires, and if it starts right up and runs, it's nothing to do with the engine side. It's all electrical. And most times, if you're not getting any fire, it's electrical. Whether your coils aren't set right, bad coils. Usually coils, they tend to, some will go right off the bat, but most of them will gradually, so you can get about 10 minutes out and it gets so hot and it shuts down. A lot of times that's how coils start to go. But you first have to start with compression, and then you get to fire, and don't leave fire until you have fire, right? Because if you don't have fire, that machine's not going to run. And then once you get compression and fire, now we go on to fuel. And you guys know that watch my videos, the first thing we do with any unit is we drain the fuel tank. Because a lot of times they've bought ethanol fuel, which is fine for a lot of the newer machines. But the issue is if it sits for a while and it's allowed to separate, and where does your lawnmowers draw their fuel? Out the bottom. So you're going to get the water, ethanol, and then gas, unless you can shake it up somehow, right? So if somebody's trying to fire a unit and they parked it last fall and they've tried getting it going this spring and they got a carburetor full of last year's fuel and water, and you get this gelling effect in the carburetor, you got all these things going on. Once you get done with that, you go to air, right? With the air filter, if it's a clogged filter, it's going to kind of choke it. And I've seen guys that would take the air filter right out thinking that, it'll run so much better without the air filter. Well, these machines are tuned with that air filter having such a restriction, right? So if you don't have the air filter, then you have too much air into the system. If you have a clogged filter, it will not get the air and it will bog it down like it's choking it, and it will spit and sputter. And I've seen units come in that were just soaked and just full. They were twice as heavy as they should have been. And then the customer is wondering why the machine doesn't run right. Well, if you did the basic maintenance and diagnostic on that, you figured that out, right? And then after you do those, then you look at repairs. Maybe the machine comes in, it has nothing to do with the engine, everything runs and dries. It's something to do with the deck. You got to have certain ways to go about it, right? Hopefully, here on the channel, I'm conveying that enough so that you guys that are just getting into it, even you old dogs, can learn new tricks from other people here in the group. But I'm trying to get you so that, it's great if you did the courses online but I'm telling you right now, hands-on is the best way to do it. And if you do get into a problem, please post it in this group because one of us will answer it for you. But for the most part, you have the tools. You don't need a lot of tools to get into this. You just have to have the ability to take things apart and remember how they go back together. And this comes with time, right? The more time, the more you've been around it, the more you know where things go. And if you're just first starting out, I always tell you, get a clean workspace, and then as you take stuff off, the first one goes the farthest, and you work your way back to it, like a carburetor. You put the carburetor bowl way out, and then the gasket, and as you're going, so that when it comes time to put it back together, it goes back together, wham, bam, thank you, bam, right? The problem is that if you're waiting on parts and it's a week out, and somebody needs that space, like yourself, you put them all in a box. Now, if you're not a seasoned mechanic, and I've seen seasoned mechanics do this too, you forget how things go back together. So you're spending all this time trying to remember how you took that sucker apart. Now, if you've been around the block a few times and you've done numerous carburetors, I would say like Jason, Claude, even myself now. You throw it into a box, you know exactly every part that's in there, where it goes, and if you're waiting for a kit to come in, not a problem. But this brings it back to the idea that $1 million in repairs, is it feasible? Is it realistic? And teaching people the right way to do things. And hopefully I'm trying to help do things the right way, of the business side, the personal side, repair side, try to mix it up enough so that you're a well-rounded individual. You get a little bit of everything from the channel. And I was watching this video again. I got extra time, right? A lot of times, like last night, I got up at 9 and I didn't get back to bed till almost 1:30 in my chair here. So what do? I flick on different videos of how-tos and this and that. And I've been trying to figure out how to increase the views for the channel subscribers. And all these guys that got 1 million followers are saying, don't mix it up. You got to go with one thing, niche it down. Girls. Hey, girls. You got to niche it down so that you're doing one thing and doing well at it versus, numerous things. Because you're not going to get that following. Let me know what you think on that too. I'm curious. Is there something I should be doing better? Worse? Do you guys enjoy the where we're not just focusing on one thing, that we're focusing on numerous issues that affect us? I appreciate your feedback. So on that note, you guys have a great Wednesday. And yes, today is my birthday. Thank you. I thought I was going on 63, and I had to do the math, and I'm going on 62. So I lost a year already, so I'm a year younger than I thought I was. Hoorah! So on that note, we'll see you right here bright and early tomorrow morning, and you guys have a wonderful day.